Are you struggling in Dark Souls? Of course you are, it's Dark Souls. I almost went hollow too. So take a seat and let me tell you about one of the most overpowered weapons in this game. Okay, technically the Black Knight Halberd is the most overpowered, but let me tell you about another weapon that you're guaranteed to find in Undead Bird, the Standard Halberd. When you're looking at a weapon, the game only gives you 3 things to go off of: how much the weapon weighs, how much damage the weapon does, and what stat requirements the weapon has. Now, technically, the game also tells you about the weapon's durability, but you and I both know no one really cares about that stat. Now, here's what the game doesn't tell you: moveset and stamina cost. The Standard Halberd has a goated moveset, and it's a moveset that directly complements the large majority of level designs in the first Dark Souls. One of my only complaints with the first Dark Souls are the narrow hallways that appear all over the game. These narrow hallways appear in Undead Burg, Lower Undead Burg, the sewers, the Capra Demon boss fight, Sin's Fortress, the crypts, and the Duke's Archives. Having a weapon that swings from side to side can seriously hurt you, because the weapon has a good chance of getting caught on a wall before it connects with the enemy. This not only prevents your attack from hitting an enemy, but slightly staggers your character, giving all but the slowest enemies generous windows to attack you. Having a weapon that pokes instead of swings is extremely useful at clearing out these areas. Furthermore, unlike the rapier, the halberd gives you a ton of breathing room between yourself and an enemy. This way you can keep a comfortable distance from most enemies in the game. The halberd also does a ton of stagger damage. These enemies with shields used to clap me all the time. With the halberd, they're total pushovers. Finally, the halberd has a great damage to stamina cost ratio. Even in the early game, you can get about 3 pokes with the halberd before your stamina bar depletes, and 3 hits with a halberd is enough to kill most enemies in the game. Now, before you firmly grasp this glorious shaft I've thrusted in front of you, it's only fair that I tell you some of the weaknesses with this weapon. The R1 thrust can have a long recovery window, so if you mistime your attack, the enemy will probably land a hit. Also, these abominations are almost impossible to hit with this weapon. It's actually a huge problem. I would just keep a dagger or some other sword as your secondary weapon while you're in Blighttown. And that's about it. I firmly believe that the benefits of this weapon outweigh the drawbacks. For my final score, I give the halberd a girthy shaft, so large you'll have to grip it with both hands. So if you're struggling in Dark Souls, drop the whip and pick up the halberd. Unless you're into BDSM or something, you filthy animals.